Welcome to SciTech Culture with Steve Kern and Ben Warner, where we examine science, technology, and culture in the 21st century. Visit our website at scitechculture.com. Hello and welcome to SciTech Culture, the show where we discuss science, technology, and culture in its myriad of forms. My name is Ben Warner, and I'm joined once again by my good friend and colleague Steve Kern. How are we today, Steve?
I'm good, thanks, Ben. Hello, STC fans. I guess we'll be posting this one.
Yeah, and it'll be cached somewhere and forever accessible by parties unknown. We have to return to privacy given the recent article that came out this week for a new function that came out that Facebook's working on. But to give you an overview of where we're going with this, it seems like a year can't go by without Mark Zuckerberg and Facebook making headlines with a new feature on their social media platform that sets back user privacy. The latest feature is a post-search function labeled Search FYI, which Facebook claims will allow users to better search current and trending events, which I'm sure it'll do just fine. But there's a downside. The new feature will comb through every single public post on Facebook, which could potentially bring up old and awkward user posts from the past and make them available for viewing to strangers if you were dumb enough to post them as a public post or even a friend of a friend's post, which the scary thing is, you look in Facebook and you see it all the time. There's all sorts of stuff getting posted, and I don't think much thought's gone into the labeling of how they're viewed. So, I mean, it's not really surprising given where Facebook comes from. They want everything out there, and they want, privacy isn't really a thing for them. But again, it's an irresponsible way to go about it if they're not giving or not upfront with to show the users how this works. So. Or what the problem is, or the potential issues that are there. So, just as for instance, I read this article that it's been picked up in a few outlets, but I saw it in The Age, and there is a way to sort of negate this thing by. But you have to dig into the privacy settings. You have to find the section that deals with your posts, and basically you have to select the option to limit all your past posts to being friends only, which essentially means that only your friends can see it. But I did it, and it came up with two dialog boxes that were warning me not to do it because this is going to affect the settings for all of your posts. And I just went, nah, you're not fooling me here. So I just went straight through it, and it was done. But the fact that it's that difficult really sort of suggests that you need to really be careful about what's happening on Facebook and what you put there.
Well, absolutely. And I think the other thing that's not often understood, and particularly if you've had, say, a Twitter or a Facebook account for a long time now, at some stage you might have had your privacy settings fully open because, hey, you've got nothing to hide, or, you want to attract as large an audience as possible. But what a lot of people don't realise is that these posts, or your posts, when you don't put only friends and those sorts of restrictions on your social media, can be taken and cached by third parties on other sites. And that effectively means that you are giving non-exclusive rights, but publishing rights nonetheless to a third party. So the classic example here is you might have done something, when you're a bit younger, a bit more stupid, or you might be a professional Australian sportsman, posting something ridiculous somewhere, and you've got open privacy settings. You might decide even 2 minutes later, maybe I shouldn't have said that or shown that. You take it down. If your privacy settings aren't set right, unfortunately, you can take it off Facebook or take it off whatever social media platform it is, but it will end up on a third-party platform. And you will never get that down.
And that's the scary thing with this sort of thing. It's that we've said it many times before. You've got to be very careful about what you publish on these platforms. One thing I did want to remark on with this, and it kind of brought up my memory of The Social Network, and even though that sort of played fast and loose with the facts of what the story behind what happened with Facebook, one thing that I think came out loud and clear that was a theme that I think applies now is that the two guys, Mark and Eduardo, were struggling with putting ads on the platform. Was it a good idea or wasn't it a good idea? And can't remember the Justin Timberlake character's name, but he's coming in saying, it's like it's a party, and if you bring in ads, it's like you're ending it at 11 p.m. and you don't want people to go home. You want the party to continue, and it's emblematic of how Facebook was when you think back to maybe 2006, 2007, maybe even up to 2009, 2010. When you went on there, it was a genuine online social experience. You were only really seeing, posts from your friends. You're now inundated today with so many ads, sponsored posts. Based on your interest, this is the one that I love the most, is that based on what you've clicked and the interests you've shared, we think you would be interested in this. And now all of your friends' posts are getting buried. You will miss things if you keep checking in now. I just don't know if, obviously this isn't, the privacy's a side thing, but I think there's also an issue. It's just not a cool place to be anymore.
I think you're right. And I think there's two reasons that Facebook are doing this. Is one, exactly what you're saying. It's almost impossible to stay in contact with your friends anymore on Facebook. Really, Facebook is just about you talking to yourself. Post your selfies, look at yourself and like it. You're yourself. But by being able to search through FYI, that allows you to almost go back to the old days of organic reach, where if you posted something, it went out to all your network. And someone posted something, it went out basically as wide as it could. Yeah. That, of course, has been severely limited. So FYI gives it a bit of a search function and allows you to look back through. But I think the second part of it is around the privacy settings, which we've already covered, is that it also allows third parties to take that content. And that means then that third parties can advertise through your postings, and these third parties that republish all the social media platforms obviously have some deal going with those social media platforms. Otherwise, they wouldn't be able to cache all the posts.
I know, and far be it for me to say that they might be in it for the money. But
it's a cheap way to get content, and effectively, I think, privacy or not is the issue. What you're doing is effectively, if you don't have your privacy settings right, the reality is you're giving away your IP. Yeah. And you're allowing other platforms to take it and put advertising around your IP. And just because it's a stupid selfie of yourself before, you go out somewhere or when you're out at dinner, that has a value for someone else.
Yep.
And when you think about that really changes the whole nature of what privacy is about. It's about people profiting out of you.
And that's the innocuous thing that that is not obvious when you use use a platform like Facebook, is that if you post a photo of yourself eating sushi somewhere and then you start seeing sushi ads, or ads for sushi trains somewhere or whatever. Now that's a very simple example, but you might think that just posting you eating a piece of sushi is not going to mean anything, but obviously that's showing that you're interested in eating sushi, which means the company is now going to say, oh well, if that's what they're doing, then we might have to hit them up and show them things that our advertisers in that area can hit. And it's very disturbing in a way, because actually no, it's actually more annoying than disturbing. It's disturbing that they're sort of mining your information. It can be visual or text based or whatever, but it's also irritating. Just because you ate again, I'll use the sushi example. If you ate your piece of sushi, doesn't mean I want to know about 10 different other sushi trains within 10 kilometers of where I am at any given time.
That's right. It's and also technically they can take that photo and use it to advertise sushi.
Because it's all a non-exclusive right that you're giving away for the usage of it.
Exactly. And by putting it onto a third-party platform, which you've given rights to, then that exonerates, the the platform that takes your photo. So we've had instances, obviously, around Facebook where photos are being posted and then end up on billboards. And that, you could argue, I guess, legally, and they've probably thought about this, that's not right. But if you allow your post to end up on a third-party platform because of your privacy settings, then really your beef is with them, and that they ain't got no beef because you didn't have your privacy settings set right. So,
Yep.
And at the same time, they're selling you advertising. It's a very confusing and a very, very difficult area now. I mean, I'm sure it's not going to be long, another 10 years, and we're going to have, specifically social media privacy experts.
Oh, I'm sure. Absolutely. Social media law and whatnot. I just want to spend the last few minutes of our chat here about talking about Facebook itself. It made me, a lot of the things we've been talking about, it made me wonder what actually happened to the thing, because it started, I think, in a place that was interesting. And now I don't actually know what it is anymore. When I log in there, I log in there because, occasionally I might find a post that a friend's put up that I might be interested in looking at, and you do occasionally have the ability to, connect with your friends in your network, which is something that's still useful. So, for instance, I got contacted about a school reunion recently. So that's an example of, old friends sort of getting in contact with you that wouldn't have been able to otherwise, or it may have been more difficult. But
your old friends at the reunion might be just trying to sell you some insurance or something once you get there.
I'll have to look at that again. So you've got that. But, yeah, I just don't know what I'm looking at when I go in there anymore. What is it that it almost feels like, like a wide magazine or something where, you get, this might be harsh towards wide. Haven't looked at one in a while, but I just remember seeing like 10 pages of content and 100 pages of ads, So, like, what is it? What is Facebook now?
Look, that's a really good point. And I think I'll give a little bit of a contrast to that. In the old days, it didn't matter about your privacy settings because really the only people you're going to run into were people that you probably knew anyway. And, of course, you could do a little bit of Facebook stalking, which is now a lot harder as an individual to do with all the new privacy settings, unless you're paying for advertising or unless you run the Facebook back end and the database, or unless you're a third party that are harvesting people who don't have their privacy settings set right.
Yeah.
Those people, and let's be clear about this, I don't think they're targeting any individuals, but they're targeting large groups of people.
Yeah.
They're scarier than any stalkers.
Yeah.
And I think basically, we talk about the commercial aspect of Facebook. That's what it's become. It's become a commercial entity. And if they can't make a buck out of you,
what's
then
the
you
point?
really don't deserve that anyone sees your posts, I guess, is almost the mentality.
Because they do have the ability to flick the switch and not have anything watch. Oh, okay, so we're going to have to be on our best behaviour so, our page on Facebook gets noticed.
I love Facebook.
All right, Steve, we might wrap it up there. So thanks again for that. It's always interesting. And how things change too, I think, is pretty interesting in this regard. I think all of these platforms, in a way, started, it was a very user-centric, personal thing. Even say something like Twitter as well, and it's become. I think it's now morphed into something that isn't really, for me personally, isn't attractive at all.
Well,
and in a sense, is almost going against what it was doing when it was set up.
Yep, true, but everything has to change, and things do change in this environment. And I think you and I have said it a lot of times about social media and what you post and privacy, and we can feel personally disappointed, I guess, that the internet's going the way it is, or social media has changed from being social to being commercial media.
Yeah.
But the reality is that the onus still exists with the individual to secure your privacy settings. Don't sit around getting upset about Facebook or worrying about the NSA spying on you.
Yeah.
Anything on the internet there are groups that can access and watch, and then they can be anything from your credit card provider, from the store you like to shop at, Google, Apple, Facebook. It doesn't matter. Any of these groups can see what you're doing.
Yeah.
And the only way you can get around that is to take measures to make it difficult to identify yourself. And that, in the modern age, is a personal, I guess, requirement for your own privacy. It's not up to Facebook to protect us.
Yep. Exactly. We need our own sort of common sense drilled into us from a young age. We'll see how the next generation goes anyway.
Well, we've always predicted that somewhere in the next 10 years, this is all going to go horribly wrong.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. So don't forget our website, scitechculture.com. You can get all of our links and content there. You can interact with us on those platforms that we were talking about, Twitter, Facebook, and Google+. I'd love to hear from you. And if you think anyone's interested in these discussions that we have on a regular basis, feel free to send them to our website. We'd greatly appreciate that. All right. So that's it for this week's episode. We'll catch you next time.